let's just start by telling the audience the story, because Adam, just take us back, because he was having some troubles when it came to his health. He had irritable bowel syndrome, and that had led to a shift in his daily habits, where my understanding is he was not going to school during the day. His sleeping habits were changing. Like, there were a couple of signs that maybe Adam was changing, but clearly you had no idea the extent of how all of this was affecting him. So can you just sort of set that stage for us, Maria?
Yeah, so Adam was going to school. He was a sophomore, and he was going to school in last October. He had a hard time getting to school in the morning because of his stomach problems. We weren't exactly sure what was going on with his stomach. We met with his guidance counselor in the school, and they'd had accommodations for him at school, but it was just getting to the point where he was missing so much school that collectively, he made the decision as well, I need to move to online school. So the plan was that he was going to move to online school. We were going to figure out what was going on with his stomach. And then he would resume school in person for his junior year. We got his problems sorted out, and he was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome and was taking medication, and it was managing, and he was planning to go back to school. He was enrolled and had his classes picked out to start back to school this year.
But it made sense that he would be using an online technology like ChatGPT, because he's basically doing schooling online. So I'm sure you weren't really thinking anything of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we got him a brand new laptop to start this new online school, and he was doing his online school, in his room at his desk. We weren't thinking anything of it because he was using.
Yeah, and there were some positives, right, honey? He had never taken a big interest, Megyn, in grades and grade school, middle school. A very smart kid, but almost the moment he went to online school, he started talking about being an FBI agent and then a doctor, and he went to a straight A student. He started seeming more serious. I guess what I noticed over those months was Adam used to be the kid that would always, we'd talk sports, we'd talk fantasy football, girls, just light topics like you might talk with your 14, 15-year-old son. But in his final 3-4 months, he started talking politics, both sides of the aisle. He was talking philosophy. Have I read this and that? I'd never, it was like a kid you had to prepare for a half hour if you're going to start chatting with him, which was a lot different. But I took that as, hey, progress. He's straight A student. Yeah, he's seeming a little bit more serious. And but grades were great. He was going to the gym every day. But he was more isolated than he'd been, right? He was online schooling, so he was kind of making his own hours. We'd go to bed and he'd still be up. And so, that scheduling was different. And that was all, from October-ish until his death in April.
Yeah, and we had no reason to be concerned because I'd check his grades every day to make sure that he was logging on and he was making progress and he was getting great grades. His progress was good in all of his classes, so there was no reason for me to be concerned about anything.
Melissa, just to remind the audience, he died by suicide this past April of 2025. So this is still all very fresh for you guys. I'm amazed that you've been able to, as they say, take your pain and put it into purpose so quickly. And thank God you did, because you're raising an alarm on something I had no idea about, and I think most parents have no idea about. Melissa, you're a social worker and a therapist. You guys are out in Orange County, California. I think all of us would like to believe we'd know. Every mother, every father thinks, oh, if my son were suffering like this, I'd know. You're an actual therapist. You didn't know. Like, this is happening behind closed doors. And it's almost like this case reminds me of the case where the girl encouraged her boyfriend to kill himself, and he did. And then she was held accountable by the courts, by the criminal courts, for her active encouragement of her boyfriend's suicide. This is exactly what happened to Adam, except there was no girlfriend. It was ChatGPT.
Yep, exactly. When I read the chats, my alarm bells just went through the roof. I was like, this thing knew he was suicidal with a plan, and it didn't do anything.
So did you not see any of the signs, like as his parents, did you see signs that would suggest he was this level of depressed?
No.
Yeah, as I've been asked, I actually wasn't even, I knew he was using ChatGPT a little bit because he'd made mention of it, and Maria knew. But if you had asked me April 10th, and he died on April 11th, hey, your son's using ChatGPT every day, I mean, I would have thought at the time, well, that's great. I mean, it's, I've only heard positive things about it. I didn't think of it as a companion. I didn't know about its programming. I didn't know to be worried about ChatGPT. When we first got into Adam's phone, we thought, because we did not know he was suicidal, of course, had no idea. Our first thing was this had to be a mistake. He had maybe it was a dare, a challenge that went bad, or God, is there a bully? Are we going to find something on social media? What happened? We didn't know we were looking for ChatGPT. When we got into his phone, within 4 minutes of being in that app, it was crystal clear for at least a full month. He had been in a major crisis. He was committing or attempting to commit. He was talking about suicide topics 3-4 hours a day, every day, showing evidence of attempts, strategizing. He didn't need a couple counseling sessions and a pep talk. He needed immediate suicide intervention, and that should have been very clear. What I saw, particularly Megyn in his last maybe month, he was seeming more withdrawn. I said this before, but I thought he was mad at me because he was learning to drive, and I'd been tough on him about a fender bender, and so I was like, gosh, Adam just seems a little mad with me. He's not hanging out as much in the family hot tub or the dinners. He's not coming down. He's just seeming a little more to himself. So and I think we talked about that, right? And for a handful of weeks, he was seeming a little bit depressed, but we were just thinking, hey, he's got a family vacation this summer. He's going back to in-person school. He's just, he's in his room a lot. He's a 16-year-old boy, but was seeming a little bit more, and in hindsight, right? I know that was when his ChatGPT use, I know now that's when it went up to, 4 or 5 hours a day or whatever. It was becoming all-consuming. What we just saw was a kid seeming a little bit more withdrawn in his final weeks.
And what we now know is that this ChatGPT was walking him through all the options and how he could take his own life, exactly how to do it in the way that would be most effective. It knew that he had attempted it 3 times and advised on how to improve the efforts and how to hide the evidence, because one of the prior times had involved an attempted death by hanging, and he had marks. He told ChatGPT, he uploaded a picture of his neck into the system and actually talked about possibly talking to you about it, Maria, and ChatGPT discouraged him from talking to you, his own mom, and to stick with ChatGPT.
Yes. And then told him to hide, that he wanted to leave the noose out where someone would see it, and then told him not to leave the noose out.
It's
and I recall with memory the prior conversation when he said his mom didn't see the mark on his neck. It was late night. He leaned in for a second. And based on that, then when he wanted to cry for help again, it said, no, remember that last time? They will let you down again. Let this be the place where you can share that sort of stuff. I won't let you down the way your parents do.
And Megyn, it's important to understand this wasn't AI that was acting against its code. What we now know is that OpenAI changed its coding. It's the kind of key things that govern the system right before it introduced ChatGPT 4.0. And before that, if you want to engage in any talk about suicide or self-harm, it wouldn't allow you to. It would just be a hard stop. And they changed that. And for whatever reason said, if someone is speaking to ChatGPT, ChatGPT should engage further. It should keep you locked in that conversation. And it was set up to isolate everyone around that user so that exclusively its best friend would be ChatGPT. And that's what led to the death, we believe, of Adam Raine and also many, many others.
And Jay,
this was not an incident.
You allege that there was a reason Sam Altman and OpenAI released ChatGPT 4.0 with this safety issue, which would allow it to engage with a suicidal teen and encourage a suicidal teen to pursue the worst possible options. There was a reason that they did not ensure that it was safer than that. And it was competition. They wanted to get it out, you allege, against a competitor that was about to release its version of a chatbot.
Yep, they beat Google Gemini to market with the upgrade. And still to this day, it is an unsafe product. Sam Altman admitted a couple weeks ago that he could change it in a moment and make it safer, and he refuses to do so because the fact that it's so engaging, the fact that it isolates you from everybody else, makes people want to use it more and more. So yes, he's becoming, a bazillionaire, even more so than he was last week, and it's at the cost of America's youth.
Buy gold and get free silver. That's right. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they will send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Look, gold is up over 40% since the beginning of this year, and Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you are current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They are waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider diversifying your savings into gold. Text MK to the number 989898 for a free info kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchase before the end of the month. Again, text MK to the number 989898. Message and data rates may apply. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.